What's up, champs? Welcome to a special Valentine's Day edition of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast presented by Keeping Karlsson. It is special because the regular Short Shifts hosts, all three of them, Lewis, Shams, and Jeremy, all had plans. So rude, right? But me, I never have any plans. This is Elon Dubrovsky, and I have a new baby. She's asleep. My wife's asleep. Figured, why not jump behind the microphone and record a quick episode to talk about some of the latest news from fantasy hockey to make sure you are all up to date and not having to wait until Thursday for your next dose of fantasy content. So let's just get right into it here. I'm going to do my best to just knock out as much as I can of value. Shams helped me prepare the topics for today. And I guess we've got to start in Detroit. Big news. Lucas Raymond is on the IR, which is a bummer, but the player being called up to replace him, very interesting. It's Jakub Vrana. So Vrana is back now. There was reports saying that Vrana had played his last game for the Red Wings and it wasn't going to happen. All of a sudden, I guess things change. He's been doing really well in the minors. Now he gets called up. And let's not forget that Vrana can be a very impactful fantasy asset when he is actually in the lineup. He's played 2 games this year. He had a goal and an assist, so he was looking really good at the start. Last season, he had 19 points in 26 games before leaving the lineup. So that's like a 60-point pace. He's basically at a 60-point pace with either Washington or Detroit for his past few seasons. So Vrana could be really valuable to you. And if he's available in your free agency, I would jump on him. Detroit plays Wednesday and Thursday. So if you're listening to this, Vrana's likely playing tonight. And I mean, we don't know any lines yet. You're definitely going to want to be following game day lines on Twitter, going to gamedaytweets.com to check the latest for Detroit. But if you look at the last game, Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Dominic Kubalik was the top line, and Kubalik did nothing, right? Detroit won 6-1, and somehow Kubalik didn't get any points. He only played 13 minutes and 6 seconds. Just a guess, I could definitely see Vrana jumping up to that top line. Maybe not, okay, but he's someone that I would definitely take a chance on. In fact, I did take a chance on him in the cupful. I dropped Ryan O'Reilly for him, and of course, O'Reilly scored another goal today, so maybe I'm not regretting adding Vrana. Maybe I could have dropped someone else. Probably I should have dropped Jordan Eberle. Man, that guy, he gets good deployment, but pretty cold. So, whatever. By the way, other news for me, because that's what people are really listening for, the news from Elon. But no, this is actually fantasy relevant news. But a player also on St. Louis that I had on my fantasy team, or in this case still have, but now he's in my IR. Torrey Krug is hurt. We don't have an update, but I'm not seeing anything saying it's nothing. It looks like it's going to be something, and the coach is going to give an update tomorrow. So in the meantime, I want to say that this means it's Justin Falk's season, because that's what it's meant in the past. He takes over on the top power play. The thing is, when Krug was hurt before, Falk really just was on a terrible cold streak, and that cold streak has continued. He is now pointless in his last 5 games, though he does have 6, 5, and 4 shots in his last 3 games. So Justin Falk might be in your free agency just because how cold he's been. And I think even though he was cold the last time he got the bump to the top power play, I'd still take him. So yeah, this is it's one of those things where sometimes you just have to take a chance on someone who's cold because they have a good opportunity and they're a good player. And I believe in Justin Falk. Yesterday I took a chance on Victor Arvidsson, and he rewarded me with a really big game, even though he was super cold. So, it's easy to just come on and just tell you who's hot and then say only grab those players. Anyone who's cold, drop those players. Sometimes you got to think, and Justin Falk, just have a hunch, okay? So go get him if he's available to you in free agency if Torrey Krug is out. I guess it's not even such a hot hunch considering that he's taking over on the top power play. Speaking of top power play, Jacob Chikrin over in Arizona is apparently going to be sat until he's traded. The game on, Monday, he didn't even have IR eligibility, and it was very frustrating on Yahoo. He was just sitting there, but now he's actually been given the O, so you can stash him in your IR. And if you can't decide who to add, you need a defenseman. Well, I've already thrown out Justin Falk as an option. But another option is definitely Juuso Välimäki, who we talked about on the Sunday show. And it looks like Välimäki is still on the top power play. He was there on Monday, though there wasn't too much power play time for Arizona's game against Nashville. Välimäki also didn't have any points. He did have 2 hits and 3 blocks. So if he's going to at least help you in peripherals when he's not chipping in on offense, then that's nothing to complain about. So Arizona plays again on Wednesday, like the day you're listening to this. So if you need a defenseman, yeah, Valimaki is definitely someone I'd take a look at. All right, let's talk about some more interesting news in terms of players that are going to be coming soon. We've talked about Vrana. Another player that is going to come back after being gone for a long time is Thatcher Demko. Apparently, barring any setbacks, he aims to be ready to back up against Philly on Saturday. So I guess that means he probably won't play until next week. But man, Vancouver could use him. Or maybe better not to have him if they're trying to tank and get a good pick. But man, like Delia and Spencer Martin have been really, really bad. And Spencer Martin was even sent to the minors already. Colin Delia might get 2 more starts this week on Wednesday and Saturday. I would be very scared to start him. To be honest, I don't even have so much confidence in Thatcher Demko. It's not as if he was so amazing back when he was in the lineup. So if you have him in your IR, I guess you're excited. Like you've had him there for a reason. And so hopefully he can help turn things around for Vancouver. This is more, I'm just telling you a news item. I don't know what the advice is here. It's just like, be concerned a little bit, but also happy to have your player back. Maybe he's taken this time to get his head right there. And, I think you need a lot more than that when you're playing behind that Vancouver defense. Also, Austin Matthews likely to be back as soon as potentially again today, like for Wednesday for Toronto's game. So that's obviously very exciting. No advice there except to be stoked to get Matthews back into your lineup. Probably Michael Bunting will get bumped from the top power play. I was interested to see if it's going to be Bunting or Morgan Riley bumped, but either way, both are definitely someone you'd want to roster on your fantasy league. Tristan Jarry also close. Apparently he didn't play today. Actually, this game is still going on between Pittsburgh and San Jose, and Casey DeSmith so far has made 10 stops after one period for what it's worth. So, but yeah, Tristan Jarry will be back soon, which is good for him. And you know what? One more big piece of big news. I was going to switch over to some streaks here, but I guess I got to just talk about Alex Ovechkin, who is going to be out for a week dealing with some family-related concerns. So if you have Ovi, that's a bummer. Stash him in your IR. Probably kills the fantasy value of a lot of people on Washington. Like the Capitals played today against Carolina. They lost 3-2. And sure, maybe you got that goal from Oshie. A guy named Joe Snively got called up from the minors. He actually had a big game today, a goal and an assist. But still, yeah, it's not too exciting to have your, Kuznetsov. Like Marcus Johansson was actually on a hot streak and getting some good deployment, including top power play. That top power play on Washington, a lot less exciting when it doesn't have Alex Ovechkin. So, yeah, the advice here is if you streamed in any Washington guys, maybe you just let them go. But there is actually one guy, I'll just mention his name, Trevor Van Riemsdyk. He's been in the league a while. He got power play time today for one of the first times, but I don't expect the offense to keep up. He did get an assist on the goal by Joe Snively, but Trevor Van Riemsdyk is pretty good for blocks. I actually added him in my categories league. We're starting our fantasy playoffs next week, and TVR is someone that's on an expiring contract. So especially if you're in a cap league, you could grab him, get those blocks. I actually had Alec Martinez on my team, who leads the league in blocks. So he's kind of slowed down in that regard, and he still had another year with $5 million on the contract. And it's I could use the blocks, but also I would really love to clear that space. So I gave away a prospect named Brett Berard. If anyone wants the details, I gave away Brett Berard and Alec Martinez basically for free to get him off my roster. Then I picked up Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and I feel like I'm getting pretty much similar blocks, and I'm not stuck with this big contract. So if you need blocks, check out TVR. I guess I'll give you one more. There's a lot of injury news. It's too bad. But yeah, Pavel Francouz is out right now for Colorado, and obviously Cale Makar has still been out. Eric Johnson also out. So Colorado really dealing with those injuries. They're actually playing right now against Tampa Bay while I'm recording. This is 3-3 with a couple minutes left in the game. So it'll be fun to see how this turns out. But yeah, if Francouz is out long term, if you have Alex Georgiev, you're going to get a lot of games, because I don't think that Colorado is going to be playing Jonas Johansson too much unless they really need to. So Georgiev having a decent game today. And again, this is a lot of the stuff I'm saying. I don't really have advice for you. All I can just do is tell you the news so you can be up to speed on what's going on in fantasy hockey. And right now, Pavel Francouz is injured. So I'll get to some interesting streaks in just a sec. You're listening to Short Shifts. All right, we are back. And when I say we, I mean I, because I am the lonely person upstairs in my house on Valentine's Day while everyone here is sleeping, like I said. Hopefully everyone had a really fun time last night if you went out. But I'm here just looking at hockey scores, and let's go back to this Colorado-Tampa game that I was just talking about. That's 3-3 now with 1 minute left. Some interesting notes here. First of all, Anthony Cirelli scored a goal. That keeps his hot streak going. Cirelli now has points in 3 straight games. He had 2 assists versus Colorado the last time they played. Then he had 2 goals and an assist versus Dallas. And now another goal today. Tampa Bay has split up Kucherov, Stamkos in points. So Stamkos is back on the line with Killorn and Cirelli, which is very good for Hagel, who gets to play with Point and Kucherov, and it's very good for Cirelli, and it's very good for Killorn. So that just basically opens up fantasy value for 3 players. So yeah, Cirelli, if he's available for you, he's someone that all of a sudden becomes interesting again. A lot of people were worried about Lehkonen and Nichushkin, who were both on long pointless streaks. Lehkonen scored a goal today. So maybe if you had him, you don't have to worry so much. He has a goal and on 4 shots so far in this game. Let me actually bring up the Colorado lines here. So that basically our advice on the podcast is as long as Lehkonen and Nichushkin are getting this good deployment, with exposure to the top stars on Colorado, then you shouldn't be too worried. And yeah, Lehkonen and Nichushkin were playing on the top line today with Nathan MacKinnon. And yeah, Lehkonen scored, and I believe Nichushkin assisted on that goal. I'm seeing Nichushkin had an assist. Let me get the box score here. So let's see here. Lehkonen, assisted from MacKinnon and Nichushkin. So there you go. Cold streaks ended. No one has to worry about these Colorado guys anymore. I believe what Brian said on the podcast is he's not concerned, and we'll check in a week if they're still cold, and now we don't have to. So, I mean, maybe they'll go pointless for the rest of this week, but I kind of doubt it when you're playing on the top line in Colorado. It's pretty hard to go cold for so long. Next up, how about we head over to Ottawa, where, like we talked about on the podcast, Anton Forsberg is out probably for the season, and Cam Talbot is still injured. So Mads Sogaard got the game on Monday against Calgary, and Ottawa stormed back with a couple minutes left in the third to come back from 3-1 to tie to 3, and then Tim Stützle scored the overtime winner, and so Sogaard got the win there in his first game. A really good game, 34 saves, 919 save percentage in that game. Sogaard is the goalie of the future in Ottawa, so it's cool to see him get an opportunity. And then today, Ottawa played the Islanders, and they picked up another, not overtime, but shootout win. And another goalie got his first win, Kevin Mandolese. I believe it's Kevin. Kevin Mandolese. I saw K Mandolese here. I'm looking at ESPN here. Mandolese, what a game. Stopped 46 of 48. Ottawa's defense decided to really give Mandolese a game to remember in his first ever. And yeah, he gets the win in the shootout. So he's a player, I'll be honest, I hadn't really expected him to ever get an NHL game. I just figured that Mandolese is like a 4th whatever stringer on the team that's there for organizational depth. But no, he's up here and he did well. I'd still expect Sogaard to get the Ottawa's next game, and then maybe by the time it would be Mandolese's time to go again, Talbot will be back, so I'm not going to jump on him, but Sogaard definitely grab him, and who knows, maybe Talbot has some sort of setback, and next thing you know, Sogaard becomes the starter for a while. Like, Talbot is not a young guy. He's had some injury issues, so I wouldn't be surprised, not wishing any ill will on him, of course, but yeah, I think that it might be a smart move to grab Sogaard just to get Ottawa's next game, and then for the potential of him turning into a more long-term hold. How about in Montreal? So first of all, Jake Allen got a shutout today. It was against Chicago, so you don't want to read too much into it, but nice to see Allen now having his 2nd win in a row. So who knows if he's turning his season around at all. Big game today for, remember Jonathan Drouin? He's still around, and he had 3 assists today versus Chicago. He had a couple assists in Montreal's last game as well. So his contract is ending, and he's definitely not going to be making $5.5 million next year, but making a case to be someone that's worthy of being in the NHL with these 2 good games. I don't know if Drouin is someone I'd recommend for you to stream for the rest of this week. Montreal only plays Thursday and Saturday anyways, and there's probably other options like we talked about on the podcast on Sunday that you'd be more interested in, like Raphael Harvey-Pinard, who's now a top line and top power play player playing with Suzuki. So yeah, he's obviously someone you'd want more. Mike Hoffman, we mentioned on the show, is like shooting a lot today. Only 2 shots. What's going on, Mike Hoffman? Before that, he had 5 in the previous game. So yeah, there's other options in Montreal, but Drouin, I just think it's cool to see. So I feel like Drouin in a new opportunity, who knows what he'll be able to do. He's had a lot of issues in his career, so maybe he hasn't really had a long opportunity where he's healthy and his head is right and and focused. And so maybe in a new opportunity after this season, maybe he will do something. So maybe don't completely forget about Joe. And also, I mentioned TVR over in Washington as a guy that you can add for blocks. If you need hits, there's a guy in Montreal named Pezzetta. I believe it's Michael Pezzetta. He had 7 hits today, and he's had a lot of these big hit games. Like if you look at his game log, there are some games with 7 hits like this. There's even an 11-hit game if you go a few weeks back. So this is another guy actually I grabbed in my Dynasty League categories as sort of just a ringer. He's not Pezzetta's not good for anything else. He had a shot today. So that's something. But yeah, you're definitely getting him for the hits. And so there's a name to know if you're in your deeper category leagues. Also, for this game today, where Montreal beat Chicago 4-0, Jackson Stauber, the streak ended. Brian said on the show that he doesn't expect that win streak to last too much longer for Jackson Stauber. So that was a good call there. I was excited for him, but I hope I didn't come across on the show as saying I really think Jackson Stauber is going to become a star goalie in the NHL. Back to goalies for a sec, we definitely should mention that Philipp Grubauer continues to impress for Seattle. Seattle lost their game today to Winnipeg 3-2, but Grubauer had a great game, very Mandolese-esque, stopped 38 of 40 to help Seattle at least get the loser point. So with Martin Jones struggling, we said on the show on Sunday, and it's just continuing, Grubauer might be taking back that starting goalie position. And Seattle should be a good team. They're having some struggles lately, but you definitely want to consider Philipp Grubauer if you need a goalie right now. You might be thinking, ugh, come on, not him again. But I'm just reporting what I see, and he's on a bit of a hot run. Over on Winnipeg, I guess since I'm looking at this box score, Blake Wheeler is going again, which is nice. He's so streaky this season, right? He was cold to start the year. Then he was good. Then he was got injured. And then when he came back from injury, he was super ice cold. But now he's going again. His goal is assisted by Nikolai Ehlers, and the other goal, Dubois from Morrissey and Connor. So only super fantasy relevant players getting points on the Winnipeg goals today. I wanted to jump over to Calgary really quickly. On the Sunday show and on a lot of the shows last week, we spent a lot of time talking about Calgary's third line of Backlund, Coleman, and Mangiapane. And while they've been hot, maybe we're getting short shrift to another player who's potentially available in your league and on a really nice hot streak right now, and that's Dylan Dubé. He had 2 goals against the Sens, and before that he had a goal and 3 assists versus Buffalo. And Dubé is doing really well because he's playing with Elias Lindholm and Tyler Toffoli, who I should probably also mention might not be available to you, but wow, Toffoli now with his 1 goal, 1 assist versus Ottawa. That was also his second straight multi-point game, and he's up to 8 points in his last 5 games. And overall, we're up to 48 points in 54 games for Tyler Toffoli. That's a 73-point pace. If he continues this, he's going to beat his career high. Actually, Toffoli, his career high is 58 points way back in 2015-16. He's had some higher paces, but either COVID or injuries have stopped him from actually reaching it. So he's he's only 10 points away from having a career high. So Toffoli is someone who maybe you got as a bit of a discount in drafts this year. And if you did, then you're really loving life there. In fact, I think I saw it was Michael Amato, who was on the show recently from Goalie Post. He tweeted that Tyler Toffoli is giving people the season that they were hoping to get from Jonathan Huberdeau. So yeah, definitely anyone who passed on Huberdeau and picked Toffoli instead is probably more successful currently in their fantasy leagues. I'll end in New Jersey quickly, talking about a player who I talked about also on Sunday, but Andre Palat, another assist today, assisted on the game-winning goal by Ryan Graves for the Devils in their win over Columbus. Palat, I think you should grab him, okay? Apparently Jack Hughes is going to be back soon, and if the Lions go back to what they were, with Palat playing on the top power play with Hughes and also at even strength with Braden Hischier, everyone who drafted Palat was really disappointed with what they got out of him at the start of the season, but he's probably in your free agency now, and now I think is the time to jump because he's on a hot streak and getting really good deployment. But okay, I think that I'm getting gassed a little bit. It's been kind of a long shift, short shift for my standards, but just talking about myself here, I think I got to get off the mic. So hopefully you enjoyed this impromptu short shifts episode to just get up to speed with everything going on. Lewis and Shams will be back at you with another episode on Thursday. Then I'll be back again by myself Saturday night for another episode of the Matchup Maximizer, where we'll look at next week's schedules. And then Brian and I will, of course, have our mega show on Sunday. The fantasy content keeps rolling over at Keeping Karlsson headquarters, so make sure you're subscribed to get everything that we're putting out there. But with that, I will bid you all adieu, And just remember to play smart and keep your shifts short.